when did you first go to sea, Bert?
In the early part of the war, was 41 I think.
Yeah, and what was your first ship?
The Narana.
Yeah, how old were you then?
I was in my 20s.
All right. And what type of ship was she?
She was a coal burner. She just ran between passenger ships. She ran between Tassie and Melbourne.
Yeah.
She had a complement of 5 firemen, I think 32 down below, Seaman Union members, and I think there were 21 on deck. I'm not sure about the deck.
Yeah, yeah.
But there were 5 firemen and 3 trimmers at watch.
Yeah.
Up in the Glory Hole where the stewards were, I think there was over 100 up there.
Yeah.
There was a galley just for the Seamen's Union crew members, with 2 cooks in it.
Yeah, yeah, because of the numbers so many, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made you go to sea, Bert?
Well, I was opposed to war then as I am now. And I'd been on the track for a few years and worked in different industries. And I was looking for a reserved occupation because I thought capitalism owed me nothing and I was going to give up nothing to capitalism. Mm. So I had a look at the different industries. I got into the dockers and painters, very good union. And it at that time was a reserved occupation, but it was getting a bit shaky. So I had a yarn to a bloke named Snowy Hawes up in the pub, and Snowy said, well, at least in our game you can chuck your hand in whenever you want to. You're not conscripted and you're not going to war. You're just carrying goods and chattels that are needed to keep the economy alive. So I gave that a bit of thought, and anyhow I went away and so I had the Narana. Mm. I wondered what I struck when I got down in that bloody stokehole. I tell you, she had how many fires? She had 2 stokeholes anyhow. Just to bring the work through one to the other.
Be hard work.
Well, I'd done some pretty hard work in the time that I was knocking about. Well, I think it was the hardest, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What were the conditions like on a ship in those days then? Like your hours and your wages, that sort of thing?
Well, I'd been milk carting prior to that, and I was getting, I think it was £11 a half month, £22 a month was the wages. You got a cake of a Lifebuoy soap and a sweat rag. That was your working gear.
That was your issue, yeah.
Yeah, that was your issue.
Yeah.
And you got that every week or whenever you got it. I thought the tucker was all right because you didn't get much on the track. Mm. And I've seen all this tucker and big plum duffs and whatever.
Yeah.
Thought it was Christmas every other day.
Yeah.
Tell you the story after that. That was my second ship, was the Iron Master. We'd just gone round the prom on it was a Sunday afternoon. I was the 4 to 8 Peggy. 4 to 8 trimmer, so I was doing the pegging for the firemen. I brought this big duff along and put it in the mess room, and nobody had a go at it, and I thought to myself, I'll have a whack of that after. So I put it in a cupboard. And a big bloke named Mick Brown, he said, who put this bloody thing here? And he chucked it over the side. I nearly went over afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. What about some other ships that you were on, Bert? Any of the other ships you want to mention that you'd been on?
Yeah, I wasn't in a lot of ships because I used to generally join a ship, and if it suited me I stayed. Mm. If it didn't, I got out straight away. One that I was in for a couple of years during the war was the Loana Melbourne Company. She was as good a job as I was in, I suppose. That's why I stayed there.
But were they all coal burners, the ships you're in, or
all coal burners?
All coal burners,
yeah.
But the gates just come open.
Yeah.
Just, you want to hold that for a minute, mate? Right, yeah, sorry about that. So, what about some of the highs and the lows that you experienced going to sea, Bert? With the highs, you want to talk about any of them? Some of the good things, the good times?
Oh, the wonderful mateship. That was a great part of going to sea. Down below, if I might say, at that time, because they'd come out of the 35 strike and there was a shortage of trimmers and firemen, so there were a lot of bagmen like myself sort of went away to sea. Like old George Brown, who died recently, is one that comes to mind. And great mateship, right to this day. Even when I've been crook recently, the phone calls and people dropping in has just been, well, it relates back to what the industry and the union has been all about.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the toughest and most worrying periods was, of course, it was after the war, but was the Korean War, when the union nearly went. And they called those special stop work meetings. It was only old Johnny Connors that saved it in Brisbane. We went down in Melbourne and down in Sydney. Connors got out. I think there was only 3 against that saved the day, and it was only a handful of votes. Had that been the other way, I suppose we mightn't have had the union that we've got today.
Yeah. So, when did you go into the office, Bert? When did you decide to move it?
Well,
when did you stand? Yeah.
I went into office in the Olympic Games in 1956. I'd been over and picked up the Wattamurra. We picked her up over in Scotland, and when we got back, Lal Troy went with her. He was the VO here. And when we got back, well, I was still in the Wattamurra, and Lal went back. No, he went away on holidays. Then there was a decision taken that the leadership was top heavy with communist members, and it was they that decided that 3 officials would go back to sea. It was Lal Troy, Alan Allport, who was the Assistant Secretary in Sydney, and Duncan Kelly in Newcastle. 3 very fine officials, and in my view 3 officials that should never have gone back to sea. However, they did, and it was Lal Troy who persuaded me to stand for the position. I said, well, I'll do it to the coming up elections and see what happened. Because I wasn't very interested in becoming an official, because I enjoyed going to sea. I was politically active, and I used to enjoy going to the ALP meetings in the different states and different areas and meeting up. So anyhow, that's how I come to go to sea.
Yeah.
I must have liked it. It must have been a good job, because I stayed there for 27 years.
Yeah.
But the first 2 years were pretty rough. I just went into the office, and Bill told me he was going on leave. Bill Burt was the secretary, so away he went on leave, and so there I was. But fortunately, couple of good mates were still around the place, and both eventually became officials. That was Jim Steele and Wolf Barclay.
Mm.
So I had they as very, very top lieutenants.
Yeah.
And it was, I'd say their support, particularly their support, that persuaded me to continue on and go as long as I did.
Mm. There must have been, I mean, all the of your time in office there, all the disputes that occurred, some big ones, some little ones, and some infamous ones.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that are not mentioned, and this would apply to all branches. You see, we had six wages board determinations. The tugboats hadn't long come into the union. The tugboats were manned by the FEDFA.
Firemen and deckhands.
No. There was no firemen and deckhands down there. It was the
engine drive,
engine drivers and firemen.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happened was that the tugs used to get short of a fireman, and they'd come up looking for a fireman. So Bill, in his wisdom, about 1948, 48 I think, 50, decided that he'd do something about organising them into the Seamen's Union, and by agreement with the FEDFA, the tugs came into the union. The Melbourne Harbour Trust was, I think we had something like 200 members down there at one part of it. There was 4 dredgers working in this port. Then we had Geelong. And I think some of the achievements there, particularly the Melbourne Harbour Trust, and it doesn't often get a mention. And I say we here because I don't like using the word I. We were able to win for the first time a state instrumentality, a paid stop work meeting. So we got a paid stop work meeting in the Melbourne Harbour Trust. I don't think they ever got it in any other port where they did man the dredges, and they didn't man them in many places. The tugs were manned in Sydney by firemen and deckhands. I think Brisbane always had the tugs. I don't know about the dredges. They used to refer to the Melbourne Harbour Trust blokes as the Maltese Navy, because most of the blokes that and Malta was a dredging company, and that's what, so that we had a lot of very fine blokes. And having achieved that, lots of others tried later and were not able to achieve it. And then in the last year in office, again in the Melbourne Harbour Trust, we won a 35-hour week after a fairly long dispute. Those sort of things don't get much mention. We had a 16-week strike of the tugs down in Geelong. It's a fair while for them to be out on strike. It was over the state incrementality payments when they privatised them. They privatised them and straight away wanted to take something like 15 quid, I think it was then, a week off them. So after 16 weeks we won. And as I understand it now, that when they do their EBAs or whatever you call them, the SIP still get a mention in the Geelong negotiations.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then we organised Portland. I suppose one of the most difficult jobs I had to do whilst I was there was organise the tugs in Tasmania when we got a federal tug award. I went over to Tassie and no bastard was interested, I tell you. They just boycotted. I went down to Launceston to have a meeting and nobody turned up.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I went back again and a couple turned up, and then eventually I convinced them to send a delegate to one of the conventions or meetings that we had up in Sydney in those days, and he came back rapt and started to get interested.
Mm.
And eventually Tasmanian seamen, the tugboats, became very good members of the union. But initially they were very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. There must have been no end of characters you came across in your time, Bert.
Oh, well, there were.
And being in office, you probably would have seen a lot of them coming through.
But Wayne suggested he talk to Pat. He could tell you some of the stories about some of them that she visited when they were in hospital at different times. But you could talk to her some other time.
Yeah.
The old Low Hill Martin is one that is mentioned very often. And a lot of people don't know where Low Hill got his title. But he happened to be a kid in Ballarat when I was a kid in Ballarat. And of a Sunday morning, that mine that is up there now as a museum was a working mine. And of a Sunday morning, the miners used to get down on the flat there playing cards, you know. We was kids, we used to cheat them, we'd throw a bit of horse shit or something into the ring and they'd chase us and kick our ass. Anyhow, Harry, Martin and Les were what they called then children of the state. They were boarded out, they were orphans. And there was a dear old woman in Ballarat, Mrs. Martin. She used to generally take a couple of these kids in and help to educate them. So she had Harry and Les. Anyhow, one Sunday morning they got into a scrap, Harry and Les, and they were rolling around on the deck, and Harry eventually wasn't going too good, and he grabbed a lump of dog shit and he shoved it in Les's mouth. And Les got up spitting, "You low-hill bastard," he said. So if ever anyone wants to know where Low-hill Martin got his name, that's where he got it.
Yeah.
Well then, having gone away on the truck, I hadn't seen Low-hill for years. And God blimey, Teddy, when I joined the Nairana, there was Low-hill there. And
I hope he didn't have dog shit with him.
but well, he was a character, and poor old Low-hill. He didn't last in the industry very long, of course. But he was about for a long time in the dockers and painters and various places. Shadow Peacock was another character.
Yeah.
And I suppose one story that should be told is was a bloke named Bob Bryce, a cook. Some of you might remember Bob. He stuttered, and he had a brother in AB, the Candy Kid we used to call him. Anyhow, Candy was taking a carton of beer back aboard a ship up in Townsville, and he fell in the drink and he forgot to let it go, so he finished up and drowned hanging onto a carton of beer. Anyhow, I brought him back here to bury him, and went over to Mackenzie's of the undertaker, and old Sally that was on the waterfront. Some of you remember Sally. Anyhow, she went round and collected a lot of money. She got a great big wreath, like an anchor. And it was raining like buggery, and she wanted to march out in front of the thing with this wreath. So the undertaker said, "Oh no, look, it's wet," and so on. So there was a padre there. So he came up to console Sally. Sally said, "You can go and get fucked for a start." that backed the padre off. But when we got out to the bloody cemetery, it was slippery and bloody. And this padre went on and on and on about the candy. Anyhow, when he finished, Bob used to stutter. He went over and then he looked down the grave and he said, Well, Shandy, I've got out of a lot of holes in your time. Get out of that one.
Yeah.
But there were many characters.
Yeah.
Alan Oliver's the bloke who really kept a tag of characters.
What can you tell us? What was it like with EV in Federal Office? What was it like going up for dealing with him? Oh,
It's a good question.
It won't slip.
I
Rubber on it won't slip.
I found Elliot
This doesn't slip. It's got a
easy to work with, providing you stood your ground. I suppose he was like the rest of us. He had a point of view, and if you put yours and put it strong enough, you got the ultimate result. He was a bloke that always got a conclusion. When we'd have a committee of management, I've seen us up there for a week and we haven't reached unanimity on areas, so we've sat Saturday and Sunday till we got unanimity. So a lot of people might think that it was it was just a written script. It was anything but that. Everybody went along with their point of view and decisions from the various stop work meetings and departments of the union, such as the Harbour Trusts and so on. And that's how we arrived at, I think, a fairly solid and unity committee of management the years that I was on it. I've seen a lot of changes. I'm the only one alive now that was on the first committee of management that I sat on. The first committee of management I sat on was Elliot, Brennan, Hurd, Connors, Buchanan, and Barney Smith, and then me. So I'm the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
What about other officials? You got any stories or any comments you want to make about how you got on with them or what they were like?
I generally got on well with all of the officials. I suppose we can be pretty proud of the fact that most of the committee of management in fact came out of this port. When I went into office there was only Bill Bird was but after that we had Steele, we had Barclay, we had Benson, and we had Rawlings, believe it or not. But Rawlings not for very long. He went away from here and then he went over to the West and got married. But at one part of it there was, I call them my proteges, Barclay and Jim Steele, but perhaps it should be the reverse because they were very, very fine fellows, very fine shipmates, and very fine officials. One of the most competent and probably unsung of all was Jock Buchanan. Jock Buchanan had a tremendous brain, and but in his old dour Scotch way, he never sort of hit the headlines. If you went to a stop work meeting in Adelaide, it appeared to be dumb. It appeared dull because Jock didn't throw his arms around, thump tables, but his facts were on the table, and Seaman weren't looking for that actually. They were looking for a bit of fire and brimstone. But,
we're never short of that at Melbourne stop work meetings.
No. They are now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, Jock was a tremendous brain, but he didn't stay that long.
Ronnie Hurd had a bit of a history to him too, didn't he, Bert?
Oh yeah, Ron. I got the old brutally near somewhere. Probably in the index would be the easiest way to find it.
where was he an official, Bert?
In the West.
In the West?
Geez, he gets a lot of mentions there, you know. 119, 122, 119. He was a bloody character, the old brutal face, I tell you.
Yeah. Did you know, was there many in the Seaman's Union that went over to Spain, Bert, or was there just a minority?
No, there was, the only ones that I knew that was Ron Hurd, and a bloke who was down the Geelong Harbour Trust for years, a bloke named Bluey Curnow. Bluey was a character. I've got a letter in there from him somewhere by Jesus. It was funny. I can't just put my finger on that. But anyhow, he was wounded, Ron, in the war, and repatriated home. He had a hell of a job getting there. He had to get away on a bloody home boat.
Yeah, they had to walk across the mountains to get there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because of the blockade. Yeah.
Just can't put my bloody finger on it.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Ron played a very good part, in fact. But eventually, one of the tragedies, I suppose, of the whole political scene was the divisions that developed in the Communist Party. The Communist Party played a tremendous role in the trade union movement, there's no doubt about it. And since its divisions and, well, it's devised now, the trade union movement, in my view, has gone backwards at a rate of knots.
Yeah.
Well, that sort of leads on to, you must have seen a lot of changes in your time, Bert. You know, with the loss of Schedule C, the loss of the pickup now.
Yeah, I suppose as we termed it, the 2 and 2pence halfpenny, 4 and 4pence halfpenny, 2 and 2pence farthing dispute was one of the best decisions that the Committee of Management ever made, or recommendations that it ever made, and the members certainly endorsed it, was those principles where a seaman would be on pay for every day of the year of one kind or another. He'd either be at work, he'd be on leave, he'd be on the roster, but he was on pay. And we achieved that. And of course that is what brought about Schedule C and what brought about the stabilisation of the industry. And I think the industry was in a tremendous area of progress at that time, and I'm quite certain would have gone on, but Howard, of course, decided to deregulate the industry, and now it's what it is.
Yeah.
I was a bit disappointed that we didn't have we didn't at least put our fists up when they did that, but anyhow, that's not my business.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Yeah. You, any statements or any comments you'd really want to make to sort of round it all out, Bert?
Only to say that I enjoyed the whole of the time that I was in the industry, whether I was in it as a fireman or whether I was there as an official. And I must say that I appreciate the assistance that I got from everybody, and I say everybody, that I worked with, and even those that opposed me. I was opposed 3 or 4 times. And I was always pleased to be opposed because it gave you an idea where you stood. And of course I was pleased of the fact that on each occasion that I was opposed I increased my majority, so I naturally thought that was good. There were opportunities knocked that I knocked back. I was offered the opportunity to go into the parliaments on 2 different occasions. On the last occasion, not long before I retired, and the Committee of Management, I went to the Committee of Management, and they thought that I was better serving the union. So there went my parliamentary pension. But I'm glad now that I didn't, and I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say I thought about it. Not only from the point of view of the remuneration and the easy job, but you get to a stage where you want to know within yourself where you feel you're serving best. And I felt it was in the union. So there's where I stayed until they made me retire because I was over 65. If it was still going, I might have been still there.
Yeah. There's one question that hasn't really been asked here, Bert, and we sort of talked about it a little bit before we started this, is Seaman's union role in refusing to take bombs and that to Vietnam, and the pamphlet that give you a shock and canning.
Oh, tremendous. We should never miss Vietnam. You know, the stand that we took, and the Seamen themselves took, you know, it wasn't just leadership going down saying don't go to Vietnam. It was real conscience decisions that were taken, and we were very lonely then. You know, they chucked us out of the ACTU. The wharfies loaded the bloody ships, you know, and the Navy were on board them. The stewards took them away, and the cooks took them away, and the officers took them away. You know, we were the little boy one out, but we proved correct. You know, and that's the important thing. If we'd have been proven wrong, well, I don't know what.
I mean, there's big things made. I remember the newspaper headlines, we refused to take supplies and that to the troops and that, which was an out and out lie because we never refused to take supplies.
We said that we would take supplies. We said we'd bring the boys home for nothing. We'd have manned the ship all right. And we'd have done the fetching and carrying. So I said at the outset, the seamen's seafaring is an industry, it's not a war industry.
That's right.
And that's why I was at sea all during the war. I never ever once contended that I was a combatant. I didn't see anything more wrong with bloody Hitler than I did with fucking Menzies. Matter of fact, being here I saw more with the Menzies and Lions than I did with bloody Hitler because I wasn't over there.
Yeah.
And you know, the dreadful when Lions and those blokes were at it. See, I joined the Labor Party in Ballarat, I think in 1933 or 1934. I was only a kid of 13. It's a long time to I haven't had continuity because you couldn't pay your dues when you were on the truck because you had no money to pay them with. But in fact they gave us exemption for that time, and in fact they recognised my membership up there now as being over 70 years. It's a fair while to be in a political party, particularly one as rugged as the Labor Party. But there's a lot of things, you know, you can't sort of just bring to mind.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
There was, as you say, highs and lows.
I know one thing I can bring to mind for you, Bert. You can't play cricket. I remember you coming down to the sit-in we had on the Iron Wyndham where they sacked us at 10 o'clock at night and said, you've got to be off the ship by midnight. You came down, you played cricket on the wharf for us, and I think you got bowled for a duck. So I know you can't play cricket, mate.
I can back that in. But there again, they're the sort of things. I used to play tennis. I always take a tennis racket to sea with me. You know, and we'd even go down the mission and have a game of tennis.
Yeah.
Probably we didn't have enough money then to. We used to get on the booze, don't go worry about that, but we couldn't get on it as much as we'd have liked to. So we played tennis, and had cricket matches, social matches. There was a ship out of Newcastle once, the whole of the down below crew had fought 5 or 6 rounders, I think.
There's also one thing, Bert, and you know this more than I would. I only heard it fleetingly, was when Hamid D. Robert decided that he wanted to make Nauru independent, and he got a lot of help from the Seaman's Union too, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the story of Nauru. We went up to Nauru. Jim Sturr was in the ship at the time, and we heard that there was the administration workers on Nauru had gone on strike. They just formed the union. That's where our accuracies with dates are wrong. In that history, they say the union was formed in 1960 something. In fact, it was formed in 1954, I think it was. I went ashore with a bloke named Mick Scott from Tasmania, and we found Hamid Robert, 3 or 4 other blokes sitting under a palm tree working out their strike tactics. So we offered our assistance, and we were welcomed to that. And when we came back down here, I gathered a lot of stuff, particularly from a bloke named Cup Southwell, who was with the AEU at the time. We carted that back up to Nauru, and the strike went on, and it in fact spread, and Hammer was elected president of the workers' organisation of Nauru. Well, the strike went on for months, because we were feeding them, and I think they'd have been still on strike. But eventually won, and Hammer got the independence, I think in, again for dates, I just forget the year, and he was the first president of the Republic of Nauru. So he went from the president of the union to the president of the country itself. And he spent some time down here. One thing they did do, they listened to our propaganda and attempted to set up a shipping line and lost millions.
The old Troy has to become the Rosie D. Yeah. I remember taking her to Japan and handing her over to the Nauruans.
Used to see quite often tied up on in the river there, didn't you?
Energy, Collie D, Egelmoyer.
Egelmoyer.
They did the same with their airlines. It didn't last too long.
Yeah, well, they went to rush into some sort of socialism, but unfortunately they got into the hands of the Philistines. And, but I was friends with Hammett right up until he died. He used to come here and stay here, in fact.
Just something that we just realised. Briefly, what can you tell us about the Ampol dispute with the PJ Adams? Any comment on that?
Yeah. Well, the history actually. She was built my elder, I think. Yeah. And of course, she cleared out with a Chinese crew. And I don't like using the word pursue because I hear Downer using it so often recently. But we pursued her around the world until we eventually manned her. And that was a tremendous achievement, seeing that she was away and gone and had her Chinese on it. She didn't even have to come back. But foolishly she did. Or for them. And we eventually manned her. H.C. Slay wasn't going to let us man her ships. He had two passenger ships, Francis Drake and the
George Anson.
George Anson. We didn't man them, but we put them out of commission, and we eventually manned his tankers. I suppose the development of Bass Strait is one that is worth a mention. We here made the first agreement in Bass Strait. Roger and I went down to Barry's Beach and we found half a dozen local blokes whom the Yanks had just rounded up round the bush, round out of Lake's entrance. Some of them became bloody good fellas. You know, fellas like Bill Barty, I don't know whether you know Bill Barty, and Terry Meeker, and some of those blokes were top fellas. Their only problem is nobody had ever been near them to organise. And we went down and we had to get in. So the first agreement down in Bass Strait, I think, was something like 3 weeks on and 1 week off. And so we had to then belt that down until we got at least even time. But that grew into a tremendous development. Some of my colleagues on the Committee of Management said we had no right out there, that it was a constructive industry, not a construction. That was before the supply boats. But when they were drilling for the... And Seaman had never done that job in any other part of the world. It had always just been done by... the Yanks used to refer to them as roughnecks. That was your title on board the ship, it was roughneck. So that at least we got Seamen's Union membership into a new area. And just as well we did.
I'm just thinking it myself. Wouldn't be many seamen left if you took Norwest Shelf and Bass Strait out of the equation, would there?
Not much at all.
There'd be nothing, yeah. I suppose also, Bert, we'd be a bit amiss if we didn't mention Miller and his role in bringing the ships on the coast, the tankers on the coast.
Yeah. And I had a little bit to do with that, particularly getting the exemption for Benson to bring her in. I was a member of the Marine Board of Victoria, and of course the Marine Board gave exemption to ship's masters and registered pilots. So when the Canopus arrived, they wanted to insist that she had a pilot. Well, Benson, by that time, the bastard, was in Parliament. He took one of those seats I could have had. And so we put Benson aboard, and he was also a ship's master and a licensed pilot. So we got through without any pilotage dues, and that's one of the just one of the things that assisted Miller in coming onto the coast. But he played a good role. He played a good role, and he looked after himself. No doubt about that. But in fact, he got a lot of, I suppose, exemption that others wouldn't have got because of the role he played. You know, we bent over backwards to accommodate him.
Unfortunately, there's no Miller's ship left on the coast now.
No.
None at all.
Nothing, no sign of him.
No sign of him.
No.
I don't even think he's in the breweries no more.
No.
No.
No, well, he was a character, old Rod Miller. He was a great big brash bastard, you know. The Willie Mack that you saw there was during the time that was taken. I forget we wanted this done, that we wanted to rebuild her if she was going to stay in the trade. He just eventually threw his pen down. He said, "The bastard won't come here again." He took her up and put her on the 60-miler.
Yeah. As I said, in the Maritime Museum we got in Kyogle, we've got the bell off the Willie Mack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unless you've got any other things you want to add, Bert, that's just about it, I guess.
No, I don't think that there's anything
Utah dispute?
Huh?
Utah?
Utah. What role did we play there again?
Well, it was the longest continuous picket line in the world, remember?
That's right, yeah. Still going, isn't it? I don't know whether the picket line is, but the battle for Utah is.
Battle for Utah still is, mate, yeah.
Yeah, you know, they're things that sometimes go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, the 16-week strike down at Geelong. That's a long time for blokes to be out on the beach.
Yeah.
And because seamen being what seamen are, they fed them for 16 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another organisation in the country would have done that. No way, no.
No.
You know, the achievement of a 35-hour week, it's not very common anywhere yet. You know, there's still 38 and 40 hours. But we had that in the Melbourne Harbour Trust in the last year that I was in office. And that was after a dispute that lasted about 5 weeks. But we got the support of, that wasn't only the Seamen's Union, we got that for the whole of the port workers. And that was against the Kennett government. The only time, I think, in history that a Conservative government met a trade union deputation up at their table in Parliament House. I went up there and Kennett was sitting there, and of all that were round it, Homer was Premier at the time, the most conciliatory appeared to be Kennett, of all people.
Yeah.
Anyhow, eventually they caved in and would give us a 35-hour week.
You've got a couple of relatives going to see, a couple of descendants of yours now going to see, Bert?
Yeah, there's a couple of them down there. Young Lawrence is down in the tugs in Geelong, and the other bloke is in the...
Based in the Victorian Reliance?
Yeah, it's been there for a few years now, I think.
Young Jack.
Yeah, they're enjoying it. But none of my direct sons showed any interest whatsoever. Perhaps I didn't encourage them. It doesn't. I could see that the industry was going to shrink. You know. Say, for instance, when we first manned the Trienza, she was the first to man it on deck on tonnage. Well, if you manned them on tonnage today, you'd have 100 ABs on them. So that simply wasn't going to last. Then when the manning committees were set up, you could see that they were pretty well organised to see that you didn't have at least a majority on them. So anything you got out of a manning committee, you had to fight bloody hard.
Yeah.
And you had to do a lot of homework to get it. I remember I was bloody broken hearted. The Iron Hunter, when she was commissioned, prior to that the ANL had one, I forget.
Darling River?
The Darling River. And she had 6 cruisers, 3 watchkeepers and 3 day workers. So I thought, well, it's only a walk-up start to go down to the manning committee for the River Hunter. And old bastard, he was relieving in the office for the engineers. He said, oh, I'll support you, Bert. When we got there, the BHP had another proposition for the manning to replace the 3 day workers. No, the 3 what? Well, to replace 3 anyhow, I just forget which. With 3 junior engineers.
Yeah, I remember
Well, if
that.
you'd have seen this old bastard rattling me, you never saw anything like it.
Yeah.
So by a majority decision, we went down by 3. I went back up to the teachers' club, and my heart was down there. I thought, oh Jesus, I've just lost 3 bloody cruisers to 3 engineers. But that was only the beginning. Well, the manning we've got now, we've got nobody in the engine.
Yeah.
Nobody at all.
Yeah.
And if the Hunter was still running around, she'd have nobody in the engine room now either.
Mm.
But the last ship I was in before I went into office should have been a lesson. She was the Watamura. She was a Swede, about 10 years old when we picked her up. And the first thing I noticed when I went down below, there wasn't an oil can in her.
Yeah.
Even the tunnel bearings were all automatic. Not a thing to do.
Yeah.
In a 10-year-old Swede.
Mm.
So all the way out, we just sat in our arse. And in those days we said we didn't work on watch. We didn't work on watch, we didn't work full stop. And that's probably what brought about some of our downfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, you take that's 30, 40 years ago. There was a ship running around that didn't have an oil can in the engine room.
Yeah.
Not a,
Yeah.
not the oil can. Everything was automatic from go to woe.
We'll look at the Nyora, the automatic steering. Oh, she had button steering. No other ship on the coast had that.
No.
Yeah, and she was a bloody war prize, so that would have been from the early 40s, I suppose.
That's
She
right.
would have been.
Yeah. There's another one. There's another little story about the Watamura coming out. There was an idiot of a second engineer there that I had an argument with while we were up in Scotland, and so I thought, fuck him, you know, I didn't just ignored him. I was on watch with him, and I used to go down below and just take him down his coffee and give it to him. Anyhow, I know an AB named Tommy Hansen. Anyhow, this engineer was working up on deck on a winch on the way out, and he said to Tommy Hansen, he said, that Bert Nolan's a weird bastard. He said, we had a bit of a difference over him. He said, he's never spoken to me since. Oh, Tommy said, yeah, he is. He is a queer bastard. He said, I was in a ship with him when he used to piss in the engineer's coffee.